Howdy ho, H2Os and Roller Bros, and welcome to r/NuclearRevenge. I'm your guide Q, and I'm so excited to look at these. People have been suggesting it, and I didn't understand what all the hype was about until I got into the subreddit. This is the sort of stuff that's gonna make your blood boil and then get you excited, but maybe not, because things get pretty extreme around here. So let's just hop into the stories. Alright, this one is bordering on the line of petty revenge, but it's definitely nuclear. High school affair turns into his worst nightmare. TLDR at the bottom, this happened to my best friend, not me, but I had a huge part to play in the story, so I don't know all the details. Also, sorry for poor formatting, I'm on mobile. It all started when my best friend had met a guy online about 10 years ago when we were in 10th grade. He was a bodybuilder, and it was love at first sight. For her, anyway. I met this dude about a week after they were a thing. They admitted feels for each other and all was well. May I mention, this guy was ripped in 10th grade. I'm 5'7", and this dude by my approximation was a foot taller than I am now. Me being a guy that's straight af, guys, this person is definitely not gay, make sure you know that. I just found it interesting that he had to say, I'm straight af, and I could see why my friend liked him. He had everything you could possibly ask for. They were flirting, and I had a feeling he wasn't the best guy for her because she was drooling over his looks and not his personality. 2 weeks later, I saw my friend again. She had been in the hospital over the week before over depression. I remember this exact discussion because of how much shock I was in. Saturday night, 2 weeks before, they had done the dirty deeds. My friend had lost her V-card to this man that night. Then, before her parents got home, he left, never to be heard from again. She had been blocked on all social media and phone numbers. A mention of her name to this dude and you were automatically blocked. My friend attempted to end her life Saturday night after the blockage and again Sunday morning when she was caught by her mom, and admitted to emerge that day. I'm guessing that's the emergency room. I'm not familiar with the term emerge, I apologize. I'm glad to say that my friend got over him pretty quickly. I set her up with my best friend from grade school, and they fell quickly for each other. Everything was normal again for about 10 years, where I heard of this man from one of my bodybuilder friends who happened to work for him. He had been happily married to a rich lady for about 2 years. More on that later. He also owned a major gym in our city that was rolling in cash after buying out all of the local competitors in our city. Money that he took from his rich wife that didn't care about money. I was able to get his Snapchat from one of his friends and send it to my friend from high school, who was getting married to my best friend from grade school. She wanted some revenge, and I'd help her with that. We set up a fake Snapchat account for a girl with a fake name and then added him. It was time for our revenge. He fell to the catfish quite quickly. He took about a month to start flirting, and after that it was easy to get him to send nudes and be all dirty flirty with us. We waited about 3 months gathering screenshots to prove that he was cheating, and then copied it all to a few USBs and put them in envelopes with thank you cards inside with his wife's name on the envelopes. We still needed one last thing though, his address. We needed his address to drop a card into his mailbox. We found his address through the bodybuilder friend mentioned earlier. He lived in a mansion that happened to be on lakefront property. A then brand new Ford GT, then a Dodge Charger. I put the card in his mailbox, then drove off to work. And his wife was throwing his stuff out the front door on my way by. I couldn't help but laugh. Needless to say, I heard what happened through my bodybuilder friend. She was furious and divorced him almost immediately. The gym ended up closing about a month later and then filed for bankruptcy. Apparently he ended up avoiding his taxes later and is currently serving time for that. Needless to say, my motto is don't do something if you're not willing to pay the consequences. TLDR, high school kid smashes then leaves my friend, so I catfish him out of his marriage. So I'm finding it hard to figure out a way to phrase this properly without being offensive, and I just want to go over some of the things that I find strange about this entire situation. So, you guys were dating for 2 weeks, and then he hooked up with you and he left. That's definitely a scumbag move, but I would say that it's kind of atypical for that sort of thing to cause somebody to attempt to end their life. I think, like, as real as what happened to you was, I think that there were probably other things going on. That was probably the last straw or something like that. I don't think that this situation in a vacuum on its own in somebody's life would normally make them do something like that. Yeah, you might be heartbroken, it might really mess you up, but I don't think it would normally go that far in most situations. Let me know if I'm completely off base with that. And when I say you, I'm obviously addressing the friend of the person that wrote that story. So, like, they got over it pretty quickly, and everything was going well. They start dating this guy, and then 10 years pass, and she's getting ready to marry this guy. Everything should be, like, happy in her life, but they still go through with this whole thing. They spend 3 months gathering evidence. So they spend 10 years passes in between these two situations, and then they spend 6 times the amount of time that the relationship lasted, gathering evidence to destroy this guy's life. It seems kind of atypical, in my opinion, that something like this would go this far. I'm very sorry that this whole situation put you in that place. Like, that is absolutely horrible, and I really am glad that you seem to have gotten better and have gotten over it, but this just doesn't seem like how this situation would normally play out when somebody dates somebody for 2 weeks, and then they hook up, and that person leaves. That's all I'm trying to say. And that doesn't mean that this dude's cheating was excusable. Like, this dude was planning to cheat on his wife, and I think that he deserved some comeuppance for that, some sort of consequences for that sort of thing. I'm just surprised that they still cared after all of this time. But let me know your opinion. Let me know if you think I'm a horrible person or just woefully underinformed, and let's get to the next story. I'm not just gonna sit here as you assault my injured friend. So some info. I've lived in a heavily wooded New England town, so naturally me and my friends play games deep in the woods. One of these days, me and a group of friends were having an airsoft war in the local woods, in a part where few people regularly go as to not cause too much trouble with our screaming. While we were running around having a grand old time, my best friend, who shall henceforth be known as M, fell down into a gulch and sprained her ankle. She wasn't hurt that badly, but had a hard time standing. So me, being a good friend and offered up as tribute, was the one to carry her back the half-mile trek to the parking lot, while my other friends packed up and tried to figure out what to do. Enter Crazy Lady and Poor Kid, CB and PK respectively. This woman in her mid-30s approached us at what seemed to be like light speed with her 5-year-old as she was freaking out. She was calling me and Em all sorts of crude things. She claimed we were up to incredibly sinful and indecent things, because I was carrying my injured friend. Now normally I just ignore crazy or stupid because I deal with it every day, so I did what I normally do. I started walking away without acknowledging her, partially because I was annoyed and partially because she was tall and intimidating. Bad move. She shrieks at me for ignoring an elder and demands that Em get off my back. Em tries to explain that her ankle is twisted and that I'm just carrying her, while I'm just standing there awkwardly staring at her kid. Now Crazy Lady was past the point of reason and told us to stop making stupid excuses. Then she grabbed Em by the wrist and threw her off my back. She landed on her injured foot and sat down shouting in pain, calling her a bitch, and began to cry. This pissed her off even more, and she proceeded to discipline my friend by slapping her and saying some BS about how rude and indecent we were. Now, I'm not proud of my actions past this point. This is why I'm on a throwaway account. I don't look at me being a skinny guy and average height with a baby face, but I have bad anger issues. There was this one kid that bullied me and broke one of my favorite mechanical pencils, so I stabbed him in his palm with it. But I was on track and in martial arts for a while, so needless to say I have very strong legs. So the moment this woman started a tirade on me, I immediately kicked her in the crotch. She doubled over as her kid began to cry, and then I kneed her in the face. She was stunned and began to tear up, but I was still pissed, so I stomped on her hand and she shrieked the loudest cry in pain I have ever heard. I was still angry as hell and I could have beat the crap out of the poor woman, but I wanted to get Em out of there as quick as possible. So I yelled at her to hop on, and once she was, I bolted. I ran all the way back to the lot where we both just sat in her car in silence as we waited for the others to get back so we could leave. And well, that was it. We did not say a word about it and just kept on living as if it never happened. I don't know what happened to that woman, and the story of that night didn't get around. So in short, no one knew, and that was it. I feel horrible for what I did, but not because I hurt the lady, but because I did all of that in front of her son. There are dozens of ways I could have handled it better, but if she was alone, that woman deserved hell. She was willing to harass and assault 2 teens in the forest because she was upset at something that didn't happen. I don't think there's a real moral to this, I just feel really messed up as I probably should. Edit. So I'm going to clear up some misconceptions and things that I did not mention. One, I'm in anger management classes currently due to an altercation that happened a few months after. This is one of their creative venting methods that a mate pointed me towards. I just find it interesting that this person's from New England, but they said mate. New England is in America, for anybody that does not know. Two, I do not know what the kid was doing because I was pissed and didn't care at the time. Three, any restraint that I seemed to show was not on my part. It was just me wanting to get M the hell out of there, and because I had gotten into a lot of trouble due to similar actions on my part in the past. Edit 2, I did not have my gun on me. I carry an MK63 saw machine gun, which is a big chunky gun. And besides, I have enough self-control not to use that weapon anywhere near kids or a person without a mask, I hope. Edit 3, just in case there are any further misunderstandings. These were airsoft guns. We were in no way shooting live rounds at anyone. So first, I want to talk about my concerns with this individual specifically before I get into my feelings about this entire situation. First off, I'd just like to say that I think it's really good that he's in anger management classes because he says a few things that are deeply concerning. One, he says he's gotten in a lot of trouble in the past in similar situations. Two, he says he has enough self-control not to use a weapon anywhere near kids or a person without a mask, he hopes. So he doesn't even know the limits of his own anger or violence. So that is very concerning on its own. And he also says the restraint wasn't shown on his part, it was just him wanting to get M out of the situation. So I'm wondering how far he would have gone against this woman, which leads me to the entire situation itself. I feel as though she assaulted his friends first. I think they were in a situation where they needed to, like, kind of incapacitate a person that assaulted them and then get out of the situation. I think him kicking her was probably justified, kneeing her in the face just further stunned her, and then stepping on the hand might have been a little bit over the top, but you're trying to disengage from this assault situation and get out of there, so I think it was justified in a way. I feel weird saying that, like, a dude hitting a woman is okay, but in that situation where somebody has assaulted you, you don't know what she's capable of, if she has weapons on her or anything like that, so I'm glad that everybody got out of this situation safely. I don't know what happened to the woman after that, but man, this is just a crazy story. And I'm sorry to go on forever, but the whole restraint thing is really a sticking point for me, because the fact that he says that the only reason he restrained himself is because they needed to get out of there quickly just makes me believe that he didn't actually, not that he didn't care about his friend's safety, because he obviously left at that point, but he didn't care about just making this person unable to assault them again. It sounds like he would have wanted to teach her a lesson and go even farther, which is kind of strange in my opinion. Like, I know this is a revenge story, but I feel like it totally could have ended there, and you would have gotten your revenge, and you would have, like, put her in her place or whatever. I don't think it needed to go any farther than it already did. That's just my opinion, though. So let me know your opinion on both of these situations. Let me know if you want more nuclear revenge or pro-revenge or petty revenge in the future. I still haven't covered petty revenge yet, and I'm definitely interested in that subreddit. But anyway, skate on to the best of your abilities. I really hope you're all doing well out there. Make sure you're drinking more water, and I will see you very soon.